This is going to continue. These people aren't stopping, and this is the part of the whole. It's the connective tissue through it all is American hegemony. America's tax base is being hollowed out. You can't spend $840 billion a year on weapons of war without being, and you can't fix a bridge, re-tarmac a motorway. Your people don't have access to cheap, affordable, or free, at the point of use, healthcare. The school system is apparently in fucking trouble. The teachers haven't come back to work, and the private prison population, 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prison population, manufactured drug crises, invented by the fucking security state, the CIA and the like, in order to provide clients for the private prison. And you know, you can't, and then all your money, all the tax base is just going out. Corporations control. And what's happened with America, and it's increasingly happening with us here, the other side of the Atlantic. We're not just as far down the road as they are, I believe. But what happens is you become incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. You know? And that's what America is at the minute. And it's going to take a grassroots, ground-up movement, as same as it is on this island, and in our English, Scottish and Welsh brothers and sisters across the water. You can see it happening. You can see a general strike coming. So, let's do this next bit. Now, this is a brilliant article. Bank of America memo. I'm reading this, and you know this is about America again, but I'm going straight to us. This is just, this is just indicative of where these people's brains are. So let's do this. Bank of America memo. We hope conditions for the American worker will get worse. A Bank of America exec. This is an article from Ken Klippenstein at The Intercept. Another publication that does good work from time to time. Well, quite a lot actually. A Bank of America executive stated that we hope working Americans will lose leverage in the labour market in the recent private memo obtained by The Intercept. Making predictions for clients about the US economy over the next several years, the memo also noted that changes in the percentage of Americans seeking jobs should help push up the unemployment rate. Can you imagine what? The memo, a mid-year review from June 17th, was written by Ethan Harris, the head of global economics research for the corporation's investment banking arm, Bank of America Securities. Its specific aspiration: by the end of next year, we hope the ratio of job openings to unemployed is down on the more normal highs of the last business cycle. The memo comes amid a push by the Federal Reserve to cool down the economy, informed by much of the same rationale, that high wages are driving inflation. This year, high wages are driving inflation. High wages? What high wages? I'm making the same money now as I was in the 90s, for fuck's sake. This year, the Fed has increased interest rates for the first time since 2018. Historically, this has caused recessions, and that is exactly what appears to be happening now. The Commerce Department reported Thursday that a gross domestic product has fallen for the second quarter in a row, indicating that a recession may have already begun. So, I'm not going to read all that. Bank of America, the headline, Bank of America memo revealed we hope conditions for American workers will get worse. So they want them to get worse. Why do they want them to get worse? Because it drives people, they want more people to be unemployed. Why do they want them to be unemployed? So they can't pay their bills. Why do they want them not to be able to pay their bills? So they can take their stuff from them. This happened in 2008. The amount of people's houses that were taken back created massive land banks for these hedge funds, and they now control another section of your economy. And this is why capitalism is a fucking bitch. So our erstwhile new Prime Minister, may as well call her that, because she's going to be it. This article from the BBC. Liz Truss has... So here we go. I'll read this first. Martin Lewis Martin Lewis, for those of you that don't know who he is, he's often referred to as the most trusted man in Britain. He runs that moneySavingExpert.com. I'm sure if you watch the news, you've seen him quite a lot recently. Literally ringing the alarm bells, telling the government that they need to get off their asses and do something about this cost of living crisis, which is incoming and, well, it's here and it's going to get worse. And it's because these companies keep putting their prices up. So the Bank of America memo about high wages causes inflation. But no one ever mentions company profits causing inflation. And the company profits came first. So they were extracting more and more wealth out of the economy. They caused the inflation crisis. Then the workers put their hands up and say, excuse me, this 2% pay rise that I've been offered isn't enough. I need more. You're causing inflation. How am I causing it? If inflation was here, and if the workers, as Eddie Dempsey says, if the workers have to take a haircut, why come they never say anything about the hedge funds, the shareholders, or the corporations that are taking massive profits, dividends and bonuses all the time? That never comes into the conversation. It's always on the worker. So Martin Lewis says here, now this is terrifying. This is fucking terrifying. Tragic news. The latest Cornwall Insight prediction, based on Ofgem's new methodology, is an 81% price cap rise in October. An 81% price cap rise in October, taking a typical bill to £3,582 a year and a further 19% in January. So £4,266 per year. Action and planning is needed now. The zombie government needs to wake up sooner than the 5th of September, which is when the new Prime Minister is going to be announced. So this is the thing. The government that are in charge, the Tory party of Britain, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Tory and Unionist party, as they like to call themselves, they're not doing anything. They've just gone off on a fucking parliamentary break during a crisis. So Martin Lewis continues, these amounts are unaffordable for millions. The January figures equate to 45% of the full new state pension and a higher proportion of the old one. The rise alone on the January prediction from when the help was first announced in May is roughly £1,400 a year. So, just go back. 81% price cap in October, taking a typical bill to £3,582 a year, and then another 19% increase in January. That price alone swallows up not just the £400 help for all homes, but even the £1,200 for the poorest. This will leave many destitute. Tax cuts won't help the poorest, including many elderly and disabled who have higher usage. Cutting green levy be just a tiny sticking plaster on a gaping wound. The leadership debate must not ignore this portentous national cataclysm anymore. They can't say they weren't warned. The excuse we need to wait for the Ofgem figure doesn't wash. In May, government asked Ofgem for forward guidance and made plans on that. It can do the same now. An action plan is needed today. They are all in the same party. Let's call on them to come together for the good of the nation rather than the personal point scoring, people's livelihoods, mental well-being, etc., right? So we know that. So what he's referring to is whenever these fucking pricks are being challenged, why are you not doing something about this crisis? It's incoming. It's here. We need to do something. They say, oh, well, we have this sort of gentleman's agreement that we won't do, any incoming Prime Minister. We shouldn't put in any significant legislation that they're going to have to kind of deal with. We should just sort of... So they have a gentleman's agreement, these scum of the earth. Not a gentleman among them, nor a gentlewoman. And People are faced. If I have a £5,000 bill, I mean, you're basically saying, here's a £5,000 bill. I don't know about you. I don't have £5,000 to cover an unexpected bill. And this is the fucking point. It's unnecessary. It's down to fucking greed and greed only. And then whenever Liz Truss is challenged, she says this. Liz Truss defends energy firms, saying profit is not evil. Liz Truss has defended earnings at energy companies amid soaring prices, saying profits should not be considered dirty and evil. The Tory leadership hopeful said windfall taxes on profits, urged by some to help fund help for households, were about bashing businesses. So people are staring down the fucking barrel of a shotgun, of a unexpected £5,000 bill. Now, I know, and I know you know, some people that have got quite well paid people, good middle class people, nice job. They can't afford a £5,000 bill. They don't have that. I mean, they're going to be better equipped to cover it, but I know people that are in really good jobs. I've got a couple of messages on my Twitter account saying as much, and they said exactly that. I can't afford this. I don't know what I'm going to do. So back to this fucking we are ruled by imbeciles, as the Yahoo News account pointed out. We are ruled by imbeciles. We're about bashing businesses. She said cutting taxes was the best way to help with living costs over winter. Cutting taxes. Taxes that pay for your healthcare, your education, your infrastructure. But rival Rishi Sunak said millions would be left at risk of destitution without more energy payments. He has proposed spending billions on further payments to pensioners and the low paid over winter, arguing tax cuts won't help them enough. How best to respond to surging energy prices has become a key battleground and contest to replace Boris Johnson. The energy has come to dominate the contest in recent days after prices were forecast to rise over £4,000 a year, as I just told you. Get this. Earlier this month, BP reported its biggest quarterly profit in 14 years of £6.9 billion, while Shell posted a record profit of £9 billion. When he was Chancellor, Mr Sunak added a 25% surcharge to the profits of oil and gas sector since the end of May. But speaking at a hustings in Cheltenham, Ms Truss said she absolutely did not support windfall taxes, calling it a Labour idea. It's all about bashing businesses, and it sends the wrong message to international investors and to the public, the Foreign Secretary added. Unfucking believable. I don't think profit is a dirty word, and the fact that it's become a dirty word in our society is a massive problem. Now, that is a load of bullshit right there. Who the fuck thinks profit is a massive problem? Profit in and of itself. I'm a very, very lefty socialist, as you know. Borderline. I'm in the communist sort of territory. That's where I kind of live quite comfortably. And I have no problem with someone making a profit. Someone buys something, makes something, builds something, sells it on. No problem at all. The problem that we have, and it's obvious, we don't even need to, she's obviously, she's throwing up smoke grenades to try and distract, right? The problem is not profits. The problem is that these greedy bastards are so fucking hell-bent on their own personal enrichment that they are literally prepared to see people die. And if you're not going to die, you're going to live in stress, which will contribute to your early demise eventually. That's who these people are. And we have governments, we vote for governments to keep them under control. Depends how much, that's what your whole Overton win, that's what your left to right spectrum is all about. The far right people don't want any government oversight, and then people like me want government oversight. Now, I would say to you that this is evidence that people like me are right. If you needed any, if you did need any, I'm right. They're wrong. These BP 6.9 billion record profits. Now, did they not think that we can see? Oh, so if I have £5,000 bill incoming, and you've got record profits. Are these two things connected? I've read reports and watched videos and stuff where they try to say, "Oh no, it's not. They're not connected." How are they not fucking connected? Fuck off. Of course they're fucking connected. The solution, and it always was the solution, was nationalisation. Privatisation is the problem. We need to nationalise all these things again. We need to nationalise the oil company. We need to nationalise the water companies. I've got an article here. Throw that up again. In a climate crisis, privatised water is a disaster. As climate change intensifies, droughts are the one are like the present one hitting Britain are only going to become more common. We can't afford profiteering water companies leaking 2.4 billion litres of water a day. Since they privatised the water companies, the water supplies, these companies have they don't do any infrastructure. So whenever people like Liz Truss says, we don't want to do a windfall tax because it will deter foreign investment, they don't invest. They don't build the infrastructure. The infrastructure in America is crumbling. The infrastructure here is crumbling. These private companies, every time they have to fix something, that's profit not going into their fucking shareholders, into their own bank accounts. So they don't. You don't need to be a genius. You do not need to go to Harvard and do a fucking degree in economics to understand that basic concept. These people are motivated to not do any infrastructure work. They will let this crumble. I saw a satellite image of the United Kingdom today. The whole of England, more or less, is brown. It's this colour here, up on the screen here. That's England has had in a heat wave and has had for a while. We've had one this week. It's only nice weather we've had this year. So now they're going to ration the water. So here's a little bit from this article. I'm not going to read it all, but the necessity of water ration is not down to the shock of climate change-induced heat. It's also a result of the water company's own negligence. Around 20% of a water supply is lost through leaks. Across the country, that accounts for approximately 2.4 billion litres every day. Under Thames Water jurisdiction, the rate of loss rises to about 24%. Leaks usually waste a steady supply of water, but sometimes they lead to crisis situations. In North London recently, a 36-inch mains pipe burst, causing flooding and sinkholes to form in roads in a residential area. Okay, so the privatisation of the water authorities by Margaret Thatcher in 1989 created a racket in which the profiteering beneficiaries have been free to siphon off money to shareholders and bosses, and that's what they do in all the industries, in the Royal Mail, the telecommunications, the oil and gas, everything that used to be owned by the people. There is no imperative to invest in upgrading infrastructure, whether repairs or adapting to climate change. Instead of taking action, bosses have given themselves bonuses amounting to around 27 million in the past 2 years. The boss of Thames Water, one of the worst offenders, took home a 727,000 bonus alone on top of her £2 million salary last year. While these profits go into private pockets, the cost of our failing water system are left with the public. We collectively pay 2.3 million more per year for water than if it had never been privatised. And then the calls here is to renationalise. In response to this, the Liberal Democrats have called for a halt to the water company bosses' bonus. That's a typical Lib position to do. I feel that sounds like we must privatise. We need to privatise it all. It all needs to come back, all of it. Demo's on here. Sorry guys, I got into a wee bit of a fucking rant there, so I haven't been reading my messages. Demo says 50 chip shops have closed in the north in the last month due to sky high electricity and gas prices, as well as the huge cost increases in fish, flour, vegetable oil, and that's before the increases in September and October. Fuck me, 50. By the way, I'm sweating like fuck. It's really warm in here. I had to close the door. Thomas Clark, I don't understand why my Nicky toilet tissue 4-pack still says special price on it when it's been put up 50p. There you go. It's a very niche little observation, Thomas Clark. But no less concerning for us all. We shall initiate a general strike immediately, if not sooner, to get an answer to your problem. 1/5 of the demo says 1/5 of the water in the UK is lost to leaks, but the paltry fines issued for not fixing the leaks are not big enough deterrent for the water companies to fix the leaks. There you go. So that's exactly it. And that's a part. The solution is nationalisation. We need to renationalise. These people are psychopaths. They're not interested in governing, and that's a part of the sort of realisation I've come to. That I've come to realise that they don't want to govern because it's a part, and it again, that article, we're governed by imbeciles. We can be governed by imbeciles now because they don't do anything, because there's such free market psychopaths that they don't need to. They believe they don't need to. They're ideologically so driven to let the free market, the so-called free market, no such thing as a free market, to let the free market take care of absolutely every issue, that a fucking half-wit like Liz Truss is going to be the next Prime Minister. An obviously corrupt clown like Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister. An imbecile like David Cameron, again, led the country through the disaster of Brexit, through hubris, because he wanted to slap it up Boris Johnson a wee bit, and through his own imbecility, and then walks away, Humpty-Dumpty-Dum, remember that? Going into number 10. So, under this extreme neoliberal right-wing ideology, you can be a fucking fool. You can be an idiot, because you don't have to govern. You don't have to do anything. The free market will take care of it, which is why Liz Truss comes out with something in the midst of this crisis where people are genuinely fucking concerned and worried, why she can come out and say something as bad as this. And profit is not evil. Profit should not be considered dirty and evil. No one's saying a profit is evil. What we're saying is if you're so fucking greedy that you're making record profits of billions and billions and billions, and the people that are paying for that are literally, how am I going to heat my house in the winter? How are we going to do this? It's a smoke grenade, that's all it is. So that's her just throwing up a smoke grenade, distraction, whatever. No. It's not because people are concerned about how they're going to heat their homes in the winter. It's because everyone's a fucking communist. That's it. That's all we've got. That's the two ends of the discourse. It can go no deeper than that, no wider than that, and it certainly can't get anywhere near the fucking truth. So there we go. This thread here, this is the last one. British energy bills forecast to, then you can see on the thing there, heat or eat. My understanding is that if you're considered in fuel poverty, you're considered in fuel poverty if you spend 10% or more. If your income, now this is interesting. Now listen to this, and your income on fuel bills. Does that mean that basically everyone earning 50,000 or less, based on that number, will be considered as such? So you're considered to be in fuel poverty if you spend, just move that, sorry. If you spend 10% or more of your income on fuel. So that means if the fuel bills are going up to £5,000 a year, then you need to make 50 grand. Now, that's lots and lots and lots. I don't know what percentage of the middle class that would be, but that you're looking at about 70-80% of the fucking population. So on down, there was another wee interesting comment here. I found it very interesting. There's a girl here. I work for the NHS. I'm on a middle band, not minimum wage, but not a huge amount. I've just applied for evening work with Amazon. Horrible company, but the first job I've found that's work from home in the evening. Our fixed deal on our energy and mortgage ends at the start of next year. We will not survive without extra income. Our department has no overtime since the budget is so tight, and so the only option is second job. I feel like an American. Americans are working around the fucking clock. 2 and 3 jobs, barely making rent, and it's only going to get worse. And then someone replied, I am an American. My utility bills are regularly 20% of my take-home pay, and we're considering bankruptcy because of medical debt. Fuck me. I swear they were trying to make us poor so we can't travel, so we don't realise this is not the greatest country in the world. Burn it down as far as I'm concerned. Wow. That's amazing. That's a Reddit thread on Reddit. I could just read that out. That's a podcast in itself. It's shocking stuff. So listen, there we go. I'm going to call this. That's me done. Terrifying stuff. Lighting it up there. Cheers, dude. As I said at work the other day, so Tony G's on the fucking YouTube here. As I said at work the other day, the ruling class have convinced the middle class that it's all the benefit class's fault. Absolutely, Tony. That's it. But it inevitably led to a lack of investment in infrastructure. Oh, so sorry. So this is Demo was saying 1/5 of the water in the UK has lost to leaks, but the paltry fines issued for not fixing the leaks are not big enough deterrent for the water companies to fix the leaks, but it inevitably led to a lack of investment in infrastructure and a massive siphoning off of income through shareholder dividends and executive pay packets. Exactly. And that's what the whole privatisation structure, the whole privatisation model, the PPI, the finance initiatives that built, the new Labour government built a lot of the hospitals under, as we know. It was all a big scam as well. You're going to be paying, if it was a £30 million loan to build a hospital, the taxpayer's going to end up paying 10 times that over the course of decades. So I've been saying this for years. I'm sure a lot of you guys have too. Privatise a lot of it, nationalise a lot of it. It all needs to come back into public hands, all of it. And they say, well, what about the pensions that the hedge funds? Well, the pensions are still there. Instead of taking those profits and giving them to hedge funds, let's take those profits and put them in the pensions. We can do that instead. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this clip from a Friday night supercut. I go live on YouTube most Friday evenings around 7 o'clock. Please come and join in the conversation. If you want to lend me your support, you can do it over on Patreon. It's just, I ask for £3 a month, that's all, and you get access to everything that I put out. And you can also follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. I also do have a Facebook page, but I never update that because it's a fucking nightmare over there.